And without this film, you wouldn't have Black Panther. There. I said it. If that puts it in the larger culture, we wouldn't have Black Panther without this film. So,
it's true.
Watch Watermelon Woman. If you like Black Panther, you'll love Watermelon Woman. Are we recording? I'm like that lady from Miles from Mary. Hello?
Is it on?
Hello?
Have we started?
I call this...
Hello?
And Janine, I'm going to call this order. Okay.
I'm sorry, what?
Okay. I said I'm going to call this to order. I'm going to call this meeting, this podcast.
Who's
I'm
there? Sorry? This is David.
David? Oh, David. Oh. And that reference to an off-Broadway play. So This is comedy for everybody.
Yeah. People are going to love this. If anyone if anyone's not seen Miles for Mary, an off-Broadway production at Playwrights Horizons, go see it.
Go see it. I mean, it's closed now.
I mean, yeah. But look it up. I'm sure somebody pirated it.
Exactly. Speaking of reclamation, DIY aesthetics, finding art in surprising places, and exploring history.
Oh, no.
We are talking today about a film entitled The Watermelon Woman. And before I say anything more about it, I would like to do a quick little thank you or a call out to Kyle Colgren of Brows Held High, who does a film analysis series. And he, about a month ago, did an analysis of this film. And I started watching his analysis.
Damn it.
No. He did it before I knew about the film, and he did it. I was like, I would like to review this as well. I think it's interesting. I'd like to talk about this. So I didn't watch his full critique. I just watched the first little bit and was like, this seems super fascinating.
Okay.
I would love to watch it without any spoilers. And then, it's not one of those films that I don't want more people to see, So I think it's okay to do our own review, reflection of it, and continue to proliferate this really singular, interesting piece of art by an underappreciated, underpresented community.
Absolutely. So...
But thank you to him for making that video. I'm sure it's fantastic, and for... bringing this film to my attention.
Shout out to Donald Lundgren. What's his name?
Kyle Colgren of Brows Held High. Very popular guy. He used to be a part of the Nostalgia Critic circle.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I'm looking at his Twitter now. So that transitions nicely into our brief synopsis or premise of The Watermelon Woman. I don't know if anyone has clicked this video worrying about it being something offensive, but really, this is a 1996 film by the filmmaker Cheryl Dunye about the eponymous, or self-named, however you call it, Cheryl, a young black lesbian working a day job in a video store while trying to make a film about a black actress from the 1930s, known for having played many stereotypical mammy roles relegated to black actresses in that period. And in the credits of her films, she was always titled The Watermelon Woman, instead of her actual name, which we found out later was Faye Richards. And this is a documentary film, more or less. It's very experimental, but we'll call it a documentary film because within that lens, I think the film is the most enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It definitely has some sections of it which are fictionalized accounts of the director's real life experiences, kind of retellings, and other parts are direct reportage, documentary qualities.
Yeah, like filmed conversations with actual people from the art scene and like film criticism in the 90s.
Her own mother, Cheryl Dunye's own mother, is recorded, and that's super fun.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. I'm seeing names of people like Cheryl Clark, Camille Paglia, David Rakov, Sarah Schulman, and others.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about any of these people before seeing this film, but it was eye-opening as far as people who were doing the good work in the 90s and, yeah, learning a lot about this kind of scene. So, Jordy, what did you think coming out of The Watermelon Woman?
I thought it was very interesting, and it's just a very uniquely done film. It's kind of hard to pin down as far as its genre, and that's kind of cool, because that sort of reflects the director and creator of it, who is a self-identified lesbian African-American woman who probably, at that time especially, did not find herself able to comfortably sit into any one community, and probably found these limitations frustrating because people had these perceptions of her and who she should be, and therefore probably had perceptions of what a film is and what a film should be, what a documentary is, what a fictional film is, and her blurring of those distinctions in her film really strongly, I think, reflects what she wanted to do as well with the culture, which is to re-expose, challenge preconceptions of who we think these folks are, or who we think a person can be. Same thing within the film itself, the character or the actress, Faye Richards, who is given credit back in the day as the Watermelon Woman, just isn't even given an identity, isn't even given her own name. She is purely just this representative of a stereotype. And she is not able to be more than that while on the screen, while off the screen. In her life outside of the film she was in, she had a very fascinating and unique life that does not strictly fall into any specific category. So it's an interesting, I think it's one of those films that obviously the director had a very specific intention for a message she was trying to present, and that filtered through not just the story she was telling, but the way she told the story, the people she put in front of the camera, the characters she presented, or the people that she presented in the story, and how she weaved in the narrative and the life of this woman, and revealed that and how that relates to herself. So that it's an interesting, a really, really fascinating film.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the biggest distinction that this film holds, I mean, at least according to Wikipedia and probably according to the Kyle Culgren video, is that like this is given the credit of being the first feature film directed by a black lesbian, which is huge, number one, and number two, for it being directed by a black lesbian and also having tons of black lesbian content in it are kind of a double whammy. Like I feel like
totally
in another reality there would be a black lesbian who, just directed a film that was kind of about something completely different, but like for this to be this sort of landmark film and it being and it having so many gay characters and black characters, and it being about this search for, like, her motivation for trying to find the Watermelon Woman is at first like, oh man, this lady was fine. Like, she thinks she's so attractive and that's why she wanted to look her up. And then it starts unfolding into this whole other yarn about discovering the people that she knew in her life and the way that the film industry worked at the time and all this sort of weird stuff. But yeah, throughout the entire thing, it's full of queer content, which actually segues a little bit, unless you have, I have a next topic, but did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, about the relationship with her, it being the first film directed by a Black lesbian. I think that might be even a bit of there might be a quality of like tongue in cheek in that as well. Of like, there might have been, like you mentioned, there might have been women of color who were lesbian, who directed a film in the past, but they've been forgotten, just like how so many folks have been forgotten. And Cheryl Dunye specifically makes this film like, no, like she wears that on as a badge of pride, and she does not shy away at all. And I think the thought I was going to have was, there's this one scene in the fictionalized part of the film where she makes love to her girlfriend, and it goes on for a long time and is just kind of comes out of nowhere. It's very very sensuous.
It is kind of jarring. It didn't seem like it was going to turn into an erotic film, and
no,
then
it dovetails into like softcore lesbian pornography. So which is a fascinating choice as well. And I think just her wanting to say, this, I'm not going to shy away from this. This film isn't necessarily about, sex between women. It's more about the identity. But that is an inherent part of my identity, of Cheryl Dunye's identity. And so she puts like that scene. And then there isn't a whole lot of sexual content outside of that scene, but that scene is not shying away from presenting erotic love between two women.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's where I was going to move if you didn't go there already. And I was going to say something that I found out when I was reading about the movie is that there was controversy about that sex scene, as there often is, because there was one review that was quoted as saying, this was written by Janine DeLombard in the Philadelphia City Paper. She's quoted as saying that sex scene was the, quote, hottest dyke sex scene ever recorded on celluloid, close quote. And then someone followed up a few months later in the Washington Times, quoting that review and then questioning the grant that was given to Cheryl Dunye.
Yes, the NEA grant, National Endowment for the Arts.
Yeah. So they were saying, they're quoted as saying, "The Watermelon Woman is one of several gay and lesbian-themed works cited by the Michigan Republican," this is a different paper now, "as evidence of the serious possibility that taxpayer money is being used to fund the production and distribution of patently offensive and possibly pornographic movies." And then she sort of tried to clarify her statements, saying that, like, it's not the gay content that she dislikes, but just the explicit sex that she didn't want to be in the movie. And then because of this controversy, the NEA restructured itself and started awarding grants to projects rather than giving funding straight to art groups.
Right, so they could have a little bit more oversight to where the money was going.
So I thought that was really interesting. That, I mean, nowadays, like, we look at that and, it's jarring or whatever, but just in a film sense. But it is important, and this kind of goes into another topic, but while we're watching the film, it can feel a little bland, honestly. Like, it can feel a little lightweight. But as we think about the context of when the film was made, so much of the conflict of the film is more like a meta aspect of the production of it than it is in the actual story of the film. So the conflict of the film are just it existing and Black lesbians getting together and trying to make this piece of art. So yeah.
In the words of Dan Harmon, famous radical lesbian activist. It's very meta.
Yeah.
It's very, very meta. This whole
is.
film is sort of a comment on itself and referencing a whole lot of stuff. And I think it's exactly the kind of thing that gets National Endowment for the Arts grants. It's really an almost perfect vehicle. Like, it's not a film that has widespread audience appeal, not even because of who's in the film as much as how the film is done. It's done in like such a distinctive style, which you mentioned. Also, like, I think there's two very distinct portions of it. There's the portion where Cheryl Dunye is going and researching this other woman's life and her history and learning about her and growing this connection. And then there's this other half that's kind of like a sitcom, pretty much just a sitcom about the lives of these Black lesbian women.
Totally. Working in a video store, hitting on other lesbians. But the other lesbian's white, and isn't that controversial?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I wouldn't know.
I know.
I don't know if it still is or not, for a woman of color, because I know there's still prejudice against straight couples that cross racial lines.
Totally.
Some people still have, so.
Totally. But it is very much a comedy premise. There's lighter. Premise.
There's not, like, in the fictional part of the film, there's no, like, big dramatic thing. Like, the most dramatic thing is she starts dating this girl for a while, and then they break up.
Yeah. Actually, is there a scene where there are, like, some microaggressions from the white girl's parents and... Or no. It's not microaggressions. Whew. It is Cheryl Dunye's character. It turns out the girl that she's dating has a family member who has some connections to the filmmaker who cast The Watermelon Woman, or whatever, Faye Richards. So there's like a connection to a connection with them. Yeah. And Cheryl Dunye is like pressing that family member for information. And the whole time that family member is like, what are you implying that this person that we know, she would never be sensitive to like lesbians? Because it turns out that the Watermelon Woman, spoilers, was in a gay relationship at the time. And if she was working with this filmmaker who they were connected to, that would mean some sort of... Is collusion the right word? Just some sort of commonality, and perhaps the idea that this family member had knew somebody who was in the closet or was gay in some way, and then that family member is like, get out of here! Stop spreading this untruth! And then that's about it.
Yeah, gets very offended.
Yeah, so that's a tangent.
So it's an interesting film to talk about, of course, because we're two non-African American gay cis men, and it's about very much about African American or Black lesbian women. And so I can't speak from their experience. I think the best thing to say is that it's a film that does not shy away from presenting the lives of these characters. And I think that was something, the lives of these people in a kind of grounded way. Like, it can feel a little bit slow and boring, but I think in a time where so often the narratives of queer people in general was that they were tragedies, they end in ruin, suicide, death, AIDS, awful things, that these women were just living their life and having normal everyday struggles and managing and surviving. And I think that sort of resilience and strength was very important to the director, to Cheryl, to present that like our lives are not just misery, and suffering as they are presented in film so often. We are also this, we are also this, we are also this.
Yeah, totally. I think if we haven't mentioned it already, the film is like, it's really funny. There's some like not off kilter, but just like very spontaneous dance scenes where instead of like transitioning between scenes, they just start
they'll
playing
have a
like
dance number.
Boo, whip, boo, and then the two friends are just dancing on a rooftop.
It's great. It's super fun.
Yeah, there's like they go to a karaoke bar where they sing. An acquaintance of theirs sings the song "Loving You" horribly, and that's very funny. And lots of other really goofy.
It's a fun film, and I think that is its own kind of protest.
Yeah, I agree, and definitely to echo your point of saying like, we're aware of the delicate nature
optics
of the optics of us two talking about this film, and we don't want to seem patronizing we just don't want it to look bad, but we are aware of it, of like where we are in the queer space and where this film is coming from in the queer space, and we are coming from a place of great respect and genuine appreciation of this film and like the world that it came from, that we don't know too much about, both in terms of Black culture and in terms of lesbian culture. So it was cool.
And the location, and it's in the United States, in Chicago.
Is it Chicago or was it
Philadelphia?
I want to
say Philadelphia.
I think you're right.
Yeah, so a different world, but definitely I wanted to talk about it and say that it has some really interesting ideas. It's a film that is experimental without being dour or like a visceral challenge to watch. It can feel light at times, like you mentioned, but it has some really interesting aspects to it. And more than anything, it is both a time capsule for a time and place. Like, it's very of the 90s. Some of the outfits are just delicioso, so 90s. And also indicative of a culture in general. And I think Cheryl Dunye is able to speak better for herself than we could ever speak for her in regards to this film. So just go see the film. Check out the film.
Totally. Check out the film. Check out the works of Cheryl Dunye.
She did.
There's other stuff.
A little mini stuff. Then she did a made-for-TV film about a lesbian, African-American lesbians in prison. Okay, so she's done some stuff. I thought I remembered looking at her Wikipedia and it having nothing. So I was sort of like, what?
Yeah. No, it seems like there's some stuff going on. So definitely check her out. Look into the film, see what interests you about it. And really, like, at the risk of just kind of, just blowing too much hot air, we're gonna keep this episode short and just offer recommendations, or offer the recommendation to check this out, because it was a cool piece of history. Any other thoughts, my dear sweet Jorbo?
Nope. Just it's a good thing. It's a really interesting, unique film, and it's also it was made for such a low budget, $300,000. But you look at it and you think it takes its production value and makes that a part of its the pleasure of watching. Like, it's and I think that reminds me as a creator, and hopefully it can inspire other creators, especially people who might not necessarily get the larger support of a general audience, that you can make stuff at a smaller scale, and take the qualities of that scale and use them to the advantage of the story you're trying to tell, and that might make it even more interesting than if you didn't have or more interesting than if you did have a larger budget. So totally. That's something I take away just for myself. as well.
Totally. Yeah. Within stricter limits, we have greater opportunities to be more creative in trying to get over those limits. While if we have limitless possibilities, you get the Star Wars prequels.
But as Rain Johnson found out, you know what, he didn't quite have as many limitless possibilities as he thought. Zoom up on the Rotten Tomatoes audience rating of like 20. Womp 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 womp. There wasn't enough R2D2.
No, there wasn't. They need. I don't know how we got here. I'm sorry.
No, I think.
I think if anything, every conversation about Black queer women needs to somehow end in Star Wars. Because I got uncomfortable, yeah. Jordy. I need to return to what is familiar. And
well, some people go to films and absorb media because they want to see something they've already seen. So that sometimes means rewatching the same episode of Friends a bunch of times, or that means when you go to a new piece of film or whatever, you want to see something that is exactly like how something else was before. And another positive of this film is it's very much not like that. And without this film, you wouldn't have Black Panther. There, I said it. If that puts it in the larger culture, we wouldn't have Black Panther without this film. So, watch Watermelon Woman. If you like Black Panther, you'll love Watermelon Woman.
Because I was going to say, actually, there was controversy around Black Panther. I'm glad that we're here. There was controversy around Black Panther because there are two characters in the Black Panther universe who are lesbians. They're in a relationship. Right. And so even though Black Panther has come out 22 years after The Watermelon Woman, there is still stigma and pushback around showing Black lesbian relationships on screen.
There you go.
I mean, of course, it's a big budget, wide, broad audience movie or whatever. It couldn't have everything in it for everyone, but it's something worth mentioning.
Absolutely.
All right, Jordy.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Cool.
I'm super glad we were able to do this, and I'm feeling good. You feeling good?
I'm feeling great. Thanks for calling me in all the way from Quebec City, Quebec, Canada.
You betcha. I'm so glad we can do this. Folks, tune in next season for another riveting episode of The Oral Tradition, where we talk about who knows. Y'all have a wonderful
something
day.
To do with movies.
Definitely something to do with movies. What's that?
Yeah, something to do with movies. Do you want to take the have a wonderful day one more time?
Sure.
Just because I talked over you when you were like, have a wonderful day. So thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful day again. Go ahead.
So, everybody, y'all have a wonderful day.
That's amazing. Could you do it with as if you are a prospector, an old-timey prospector?
Yes, of course. So, folks, thanks for tuning in. I want you all to have a wonderful day.
That's
I think
great.
That was a little too Bill Cosby. Could I try it one more time?
Yeah. No, you're more like you're just about to hit the edge of the Rocky Mountain roller coaster.
Right.
And there's the prospector just about there, and he's animatronic, and he's about to tell you to turn back, and you just keep going, and you go down the hill. So you're that character.
Oh, y'all come back now soon, you hear? Y'all have a wonderful day.
That's great. That's perfect.
Thank you.
I think that's perfect. Do you have any way you want me to do the say goodbye?
Yeah, if you could pretend that you just got back from a trip to Quebec and you are lapsing into bilingual speak because you haven't quite adjusted to being back in the English world.
I'm saying goodbye, or I'm just saying what I.
You're saying hello. As
oh,
you're
okay.
Returning.
Okay. Hello, every person. Have a bon day pourtoir.
It was so good to see you. Welcome back, Jordy, and everyone.
Merci beau lots.
We will catch up with you guys next time. Thanks for tuning into the Oral Tradition.
Bye now.